Hey everyone, how about we bring a new brand into the channel today, FX Audio. I was actually sent a few of their products from Hi-Fi College to share my thoughts, including some new ones that they have coming out that look pretty interesting. One covering the mini monoblock segment, and another that looks to be a pretty competent DAC, but more on those soon. Still need to put them through the usual tests. Today we have the Tube-05. It's a headphone amp as well as preamp, likely something you're going to keep at your desk. Pretty small little box. It features a 12 AU7 tube, smart switching of inputs, tone controls, and is priced at $119 today. The design on this one is pretty straightforward. It's a little handful of a black box, matte black finish with a little bit of flare coming from the screen, as well as the 12 AU7 tube. When the unit is powered on, the underside of the tube will have a soft glow. Naturally, this is getting some assistance from an LED within the unit, but it's actually nicely done in this case. Not as artificially lit as some of the examples that I've recently seen. A number of vents at the top in this case as well, and it's certainly not just for looks. This one actually puts off quite a bit of heat. It's certainly warm to the touch, so these can help to dissipate some of that heat out of the case. We're just shy of 10,000 subscribers as I make this video. If you haven't already joined the community, help a guy out. Let's grow this thing together. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm really looking forward to some of the upcoming projects that I can share with you guys. The front of the unit has an OLED display. It shows the usual things that you would normally expect, as well as displays the menu structure. I'll demonstrate that one in just a minute here. We get two options for outputs, a 3.5mm as well as a 6.35 unbalanced out. No balanced connections on this one, but I'm good with that here. I'd rather they put the money into performance and hardware like it appears they did, instead of really reaching for every input and output imaginable, but limiting the performance. Flipping it to the rear, it's pretty simple on this one. RCA line input and line outputs for operating this as a preamp. On the topic of preamps, it actually does something that some of these headphone amps miss. It intelligently switches between headphones and the pre-outs. If you see here, I have the headphones disconnected and it shows RCA. If I plug my headphones in, it automatically switches the outputs, which is really nice. A lot of these either don't switch between them at all or require a swipe of a switch or a button push. While we're here, let's take a look at this menu. You can either push the volume knob in or use the remote in this case. Once we get into the menu, the first option we see is the input option. From here, you can select tube or default. It's actually a nice touch. You can select if you want the tube in the audio chain. I'll cover the differences a bit more during the sound review. Next is the output, and that's simply either selecting it as a preamp or having it in smart mode to switch between outputs for headphone and preamp users, going to a separate amp or, a set of powered speakers. The last two are simply the tone controls, bass and treble, selectable between -10 and +10. Getting into how this one sounds and the differences between tube and direct modes. First, the direct mode definitely has more of a transparent, pure type sound. It's a little more focused and sounds as if the treble has a bit more presence from the mids up to the highs. When I enable the tube mode, it is audible. It's not night and day differences here, but you get sort of a coloration that many will enjoy, or you might not. Some people gravitate to this type of smooth sound. Others want that sheet of glass, technical and pure. It's also fine to switch between these depending on your mood and what you're listening to. Poor recordings in general might benefit from the tube modes, can take away some of that sizzle that can irritate as you bring the volume up. I can about imagine a lot of you have a number of tracks that don't necessarily show off your system, but nonetheless you enjoy them and likely always will. Me being someone who listens to music, not equipment for enjoyment, I have no issues bringing in the poor recordings. I'm not going to restrict myself to audiophile snobbery, but I do appreciate the artists who prioritize sound quality. I mean, come on, we didn't buy all this for it to sound like an AM radio station. Basically, expect the tube mode to carry more warmth with a full-bodied bass sound. A little more presence in the lower registries, warming it up a bit, as well as likely a bit of a roll-off at the top, keeping all that sharpness at bay. It might actually be useful to bring one of these in with a Class D amp for the preamp function. Some find the top end of those a bit much depending on the speaker pairings, so this in some ways could tame that down. For my IEM users, it's likely not going to be my first pick. Sensitive IEMs will miss out on a lot of the volume control needed. Even at volume 1, it's going to be pretty loud. At 1, I was nearing my typical listening levels, so you can about imagine how quickly that ramps up if you dare to give the volume knob a swing. It wasn't an issue with typical headphones. The HD6XXs that I tested with had plenty of volume control. I was typically operating them, somewhere around the halfway point. So although the control for IEMs won't be there, I guess it's still usable for IEMs as the amp was quiet. No background noise or sizzle coming through. Just be aware, it's something to keep in mind if you listen to IEMs at a lower volume level. Taking a look at the remote, it's the typical shape and design we see on almost all of these budget amp designs. Not all the buttons are going to be used here, so this remote must be shared with some of their other products as well. It does everything you need though. Powers the amp on and off, controls volume, and operates the menu structure. And of course, it does allow you to switch between the direct mode and tube as well. Wrapping this one up, the FX Audio Tube-05 has a nice look to it. They executed the tube glow better than most. It has a simple display that gives you everything you need. It can intelligently switch between the line outs and the headphone outputs, and it gives you options for sound profiles. It's not going to get my recommendation for IEM users, but I can give this one a recommendation for users like myself who primarily use higher impedance headphones like the HD6XXs that I tested with today. This unit could make a nice pairing at your desk when you bring in an additional set of speakers to take advantage of the pre-outs and that remote that they include as well. Apparently FX Audio has a new series of products that fall under the Good Times labeling. These products have a bit of higher requirements in terms of physical appearance, internals, and performance. I'm going to post up the specs on this one. It's not going to blow your doors off with power by any means, but it's certainly enough to get the job done with most of the budget-friendly headphones that you buy today, like the HD6XXs that I was testing with today. At no point did I feel like there was any sort of power limitation that was holding me back with this pairing. As you can see, there is a change in THD between the direct and tube modes, but that's sort of expected on a setup like this. That extra distortion is just what the doctor ordered for some, and others just don't get it or want it. That's fine, and at the very least, this one lets you select between the modes, so in some ways you can test the water, see what sounds to you. Like anything else in this price segment, have fun with it. Don't have $1,000 amp expectations, and I think you'll actually be pretty pleased here. Thanks for watching today. As always, I would appreciate a like and subscribe if you're not already in the community. I have a lot of videos on the way covering all kinds of products, so stick around and hopefully I can send something your way that you enjoy. If you like DIY builds, I have you covered. CSS audio build on the way. If you like premium audio, Buchard A10 coming up. If you like to tinker, I have the new Burson op amps. And if you're here for budget audio products, I have you covered. I think I have about 5, 6 more in the queue right now. So I look forward to talking to all of you soon. Take care. Later.